Hi everyone, my name is Ned Shell. Nigeria has been an incredible source of ideas and proposals for Ideas for Action, and I'm thrilled to help continue that effort and make sure we get as many people involved from Nigeria and the Africa region generally in Ideas for Action as possible. By way of background, I've worked across the private, public, and nonprofit sectors, starting my career off at Bain & Company as a management consultant in New York City, where I worked with corporate clients on strategic and operational challenges that they were facing. I took some time off from Bain to join the World Bank's global education practice, where I joined a team advising the Vietnamese government on K-12 education reform. After Bain, I moved to Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, and joined the Ethiopian Agricultural Transformation Agency as a project leader, where I worked on horticulture program designs and contract farming policy. Most recently, I've worked for the New York City Mayor's Office on education and equity-related initiatives. I've studied at the University of Pennsylvania, Harvard Business School, and Harvard Kennedy School. I've also been involved since the founding of Ideas for Action as one of its first young professional organizers. Since that time, the program has grown tremendously, and I've had the privilege of reading and evaluating dozens, if not hundreds, of proposals from young people of almost every nationality in the world. Over these years, as both an evaluator of Ideas for Action proposals and as a young professional, I've learned about what makes a proposal succeed in the Ideas for Action competition. I wanted to share some of those learnings with you so that you are in as strong a position as possible to win. The first piece of advice I have is to solve something big, not something small. A subject like how to solve the waste problem in a small village in eastern Panama is risky. The point of Ideas for Action is to think of things that our national level public officials would be interested in. If you do pick something like solving the waste problem in a small village in eastern Panama, make sure you talk about how your solution is transferable to many other cases in other parts of the country, region, or world. Ideas for Action wants people to be ambitious about the change they want to see in the world, so make sure to bring a sufficient level of ambition to your proposal. Said another way, you should be transformational, not incremental in your thinking. This is a concrete example of what I meant on the last slide. A not as good thesis for a proposal would be the following. The waste problem in eastern Panama poses a significant problem to community members as it contributes to poor air quality, contaminated water, and environmental degradation. Our solution, explained in detail in our proposal, involves a new tripartite financing model with the Panamanian Credit Union Authority, the East Panama Green Collective, and the Panama National Bank. A much better thesis for a proposal would be the following. The waste problem in eastern Panama is similar to many of the problems faced by small rural communities around the developing world. Our solution involves using a tripartite financing model between a country's credit union regulator, environmental nonprofit groups, and the country's national bank to tackle this issue. Our proposal uses eastern Panama as an example, but explains in detail how this model could be used throughout the world in the same way. These two paragraphs sound very similar, but they would be viewed by evaluators very differently. The first appears to tackle a very specific sub-national issue without clarifying whether a solution to that issue could have a broader impact on the world. The second makes it clear that while you might use a subnational area as an illustration of your idea, your solution would have a major impact on other parts of the world as well. This is another concrete example of what it looks like to solve something big versus something small. An unsuccessful proposal would involve solving a very small problem, one that implies only modest improvements for a group of people or organizations. For example, a not as good proposal might have a thesis that goes something like this. Current milk distributors in parts of Southeast Asia use a form of polysynthetic packaging that is inefficient. If they switch to more modern forms of packaging, they could reduce raw material costs by 1.5% and use the proceeds to invest more in their businesses, thereby serving more people. Our proposal discusses how businesses could change their operations to see the benefit of these lower costs. In contrast, a better proposal's thesis might be something like this. Current forms of consumer goods packaging in parts of Southeast Asia involve the use of environmentally damaging materials that contribute to the death of millions of ocean life and wildlife. Switching to a different type of material, while increasing costs by 3% on average, would have a significant positive impact on fishing and farming communities. Our proposal discusses a model involving the government and private sector to incentivize a change in packaging materials. In this second example, the team is clearly talking about a problem that poses a significant threat to many people, rather than something that only presents itself as an opportunity for minor incremental improvement. Another reason many proposals fail to make the cut is that they do not present sufficiently new ideas. Instead, they rely on old ideas and either repackage them or suggest they be more widely implemented. However, suggesting a successful model be more widely used is not sufficiently innovative to win this competition. You must come up with creative ways that some model can be more widely adopted, or come up with a new model entirely. An example of a not as good proposal thesis is as follows. Microfinance has been a force for good across many regions of the world. However, in parts of East Africa, the model has not been implemented as widely. Our proposal discusses the importance of bringing more microfinance opportunities to East Africa so that more people can benefit from access to credit and savings products. The reason this is not good is that it doesn't appear to propose anything new, just a wider application of something old. This would have been more successful if it focused more on how it could be more widely applied through a creative and new services strategy. A better thesis might sound something like this. A large number of smallholder farmers in East Africa have had only limited access to financial products. However, to advance economically, many would be aided by microinsurance. Unfortunately, the traditional model of microinsurance is ill-equipped to serve the needs of a large proportion of smallholders. Our proposal suggests a new microinsurance model and delivery method that involves strategic partnerships between key stakeholders at the regional and multinational level. This is better than the first example because it proposes a new model rather than rehashing something old. Finally, it's enormously important that you pay attention to the basics. Many people spend a long time on their proposals but sink their chances at winning because they do one of the following. They don't follow directions. They spend too long explaining the problem rather than the solution. Their thesis is not direct, to the point, and specific. Their sentences are long, use complex vocabulary when simple words would suffice. They copy and paste huge data tables and charts into the document without context. Or they submit a business plan. Ideas for Action is not a business plan competition. Instead, make sure to do the following. Be specific and get to the point. Proofread your work. Use only the data and evidence that supports your claim. And follow directions. And that includes the word length, the word count, and length. I'm going to provide some quick examples that illustrate the points I just made. In terms of showing data, this is an example of a bad chart. Why? It's incredibly complicated. It takes the reader many minutes to really understand what is going on, and it's hard to tell what label is applied to which line or which bar. If all of the data in this chart is really crucial, the team should have split it into multiple charts that are more simple and clear. The charts in this box each try to get across only one simple point. This is much better than trying to combine as many data points into one chart as possible. Another common pitfall I've observed is teams using many more words than they need to. For example, the following sentence could be written with about 80% fewer words. It's crucially important to recognize the significance of the dramatically negative dip in life expectancy in 2015 for low-income children aged 5 to 9 years old who deserve a chance at a longer life. This unacceptable dip is due to a complex set of factors, the most important of which is incredibly low levels of access to fresh fruits and vegetables which are available to their more wealthy peers. In contrast, this next sentence is much more to the point and clear while conveying the same information. Life expectancy for low-income children aged 5 to 9 years old dipped in 2015, primarily due to a lack of access to fresh fruits and vegetables. I hope these pieces of advice were helpful as you think about drafting your proposals. I do want to leave you with a couple of final thoughts, though. It's exceedingly rare for young people to get an opportunity like this to have their ideas shared with some of the greatest minds in development. Take advantage of this and submit something really thoughtful and creative. The teams I've talked to from past years, both those who have won and not won, said that they are grateful for the opportunity to think outside the box and really develop something new. One individual I spoke with recently didn't win, but was so inspired by his idea that he moved abroad from his home country, obtained funding, and started an organization to implement the idea he wrote about in his proposal. This is all to say that you should cherish this opportunity and take full advantage of it, because I know you will benefit greatly if you do. That's all I have for you today. Thanks so much for the opportunity to speak to you all. I hope some of the advice I gave was useful in writing your proposals, and I can't wait to read them.